Okay, famous movies. Aliens versus Predators. Who would win in matchups? You had, I don't know, Cowboys versus Aliens. It seemed like the Cowboys would be totally outclassed because the alien technology would be so many generations of weaponry and more advanced. Anyways, vampires. Let's say they're at the Dixie Pig in New York City. A Dixie Pig is a place where vampires and Tahine and low men go to eat long pork, which is Homo sapiens sapiens as meat. It's normally known as people. Okay, there's one. Okay, how about badgers? Because that's the name of that truck. How about badger? Like that they had Wolverines that was Red Dawn movies. Well, a Wolverine is a badger. Another name for it, I would say. So if you were Wolverines in the original movie I remember watching, what year would that be? 89, maybe 1989, maybe. Anyways, if you were, American teens that had been trained by your father and your father's friends who hunted. You were trained in the ways of using, high-powered rifles and scopes. And, the ideas behind baiting bears and camouflage and calling and trying to understand the patterns that the hunted animal uses. Well, could you easily be converted over into commando forces? Well, that's what Red Dawn was. When untrained partisans, untrained by military, formal military, but trained in other ways, rebelled against in those movies against Soviet and Cuban communist forces invading their homeland. And anyways, we were trying to figure out these monster movies, and the idea was vampires. And we're talking about the Dixie Pig in New York City in the Stephen King. Well, definitely Dark Tower. I'm not sure. It probably is listed in other books as well. But the Dixie Pig, and you can go online, and there is more than one website, I think, that talks about the Dixie Pig. And long pork is, people. Soylent Green is also people, humans that were put in a wood chipper and turned into mush and then turned into patties that are that pink slime that you get at McDonald's. That was a Charlton Heston movie from around 1970. Soylent Green is people. Vampires think people are food. There's vampire movies, Anne Rice novels, etc. So in between Anne Rice and Stephen King, both covering vampires, I don't know, Wolverines versus vampires. Well, you have the problem that was brought to our attention when I was about 10 years old. I used to watch on an old black and white TV upstairs. The Night Stalker, with Darren McGavin playing Carl Kolchak. Kolchak worked for a local newspaper, and his boss was Simon Oakland, who also played the general in the American Marine military World War II story, Baba Black Sheep, that was also called Black Sheep Squadron. That was starring a number of, rough and tumble men who, well, they did work just like this. They worked like badgers. Because at nighttime they fought amongst each other. Because they were alcoholic drunks, bad drunks, and they loved to get in fights. Because time after time they get drunk and then they get in a big brawl fight. And the next day they get up and they be hungover and they get into their corsair fighters that were tasked with going out and tackling the Japanese enemy. And they went up in those planes and they did dog fights and they dropped bombs, 500-pound bombs on enemy installations. And then when they were done, they flew back home and they turned over the keys to Sergeant Micklin, and Micklin looked at them and said, "We're not quite done yet, fellas, because you got, some bullet holes here that got to be patched, and there's one of me, master mechanic, and all you pilots." So he said, "I'm going to train you along the way, so you people better pay attention, because I can't possibly fix all of these planes by tomorrow without your help. And seeing as that you're a bunch of alcoholics, I don't want you drunk quite yet. So we fix the planes first, get them in operating condition so you can go out in your next run. And then when they're all done, because once if you didn't get a bullet hole, then clearly you weren't in the fuzzball, and clearly, you weren't pulling your weight, were you? So nobody goes to the bar until every plane that I decide is fixable. Because seriously, there's some here for parts, and we're not going to fix those ones today. But the ones that came in should be the ones going out tomorrow, unless we have a catastrophic problem and we don't have a part and we don't have a way of fixing it. Well, then we're going to call it, we can't do that one. But every other one, all of you are going to work on all these planes. So we're going to start, I don't know, you go over there and you talk with that guy, because he's the mechanic for the Jeeps. So have you go over there and you learn how to work on a Jeep, because I can't possibly have all you pilots around me. Won't be able to see. So you go over there and you tell him that you're there to learn how to do whatever he needs you to do with our motor pool. And any other maintenance tasks are got to be done. And then we get everybody all together getting everything done. And when everything is ship shape and military prestige, then you can go have a shower and go to the officer's mess. I don't care if you're like whatever it is, because whatever it is, if you're going to dress up nice, go to the officers club, even if you're an enlisted man. Yes, I would say so. And, if you're just going to go in there and have beer and you're going to go unshowered and, whatever, then, then go to, I don't know, or vice versa, whatever it is, or you go to Rosie's bar. I don't know, whatever it is, but don't drink until we're done all of the work that needs to be done. And that's what Bricklin would say, who was a technical sergeant. And Pappy Boyington was a major, an officer. But Bricklin would look at Pappy, and he was bigger than Pappy, and he'd be logical. And Pappy would probably, well, I don't know, he got scolded by Bricklin, and he was told exactly that by the technical sergeant. He said, "Motherfucker, you want to fly this motherfucking thing tomorrow, and you want to trust me with it without you, when you go to the bar and you're going to leave me out here, I'm going to make sure there's going to be some mechanical problem that doesn't get addressed. In other words, you're going to crash tomorrow, motherfucker, because you're giving away your power to somebody else. And it might be me that's an ethical person, but you might be some other mechanic who is going to say that to you. So let's prevent this problem right from the get-go by getting really clear that you're a man and I'm a man, and our job is to win the war for our collective us, so we can be free. So let's win the war together now, and let's not be alcoholic, because if you want to be, you're going to get conquered, and then you're going to be enslaved, and then you won't be able to ever have a drink, ever, because you'll be permanently in a prison camp or dead. So you're fighting for your freedom to drink by not drinking right now. If you want to have the privilege of drinking booze sometime in the future, then you've got to make a civilization where that's a privilege that you get when you're free. But until we're free, then we're not getting drunk. We're going to fight for our freedom, for our right to have a drink. And then our right to manage our own alcohol. Because the true story that was, given by the then advanced in age, real life Pappy Boyington, in his story, He was a raging alcoholic, and he battled the bottle when he came back from World War II. So, boozing, a part of Western culture, exported all around the world, first with maybe Japan, and I don't know, apparently China has like massive booze consumption. And seriously, I grew up in Thunder Bay, which was like celebrating alcohol consumption. In high school, we couldn't wait for the story about whose house was having a high school party where we would be expecting to drink booze until we got super drunk. Way of life. So when the culture celebrates booze, then we produce really bad alcoholics. And it becomes socially normal to not treat alcoholism as a disease. So, okay, so we were talking about vampires versus wolverines. Well, it was just Carl Kolchak on the Night Stalker. Well, he was dealing with a werewolf on board a cruise ship, and he had to melt down. The officers had real silver buttons on their officers' uniforms, so he got some of those and cut them off, and then he went somewhere, mechanic shop, and he melted down the silver, and somehow he found a bullet mold on board a cruise ship. Maybe the cruise ship just went out for the day and then he went home. I don't know, but he made silver bullets on board a cruise ship. And then where would he get them? I don't know. He must have taken bullets apart and then made silver bullets. It seems kind of far-fetched when I think about it. In reality, your ability to make silver bullets on a cruise ship. Did they even let you have handguns and bullets on when you go on board? Maybe they do. I don't know. I've never been. All the same, if you're expecting me, well, if I went to my Uncle Don's shop in his basement of his house, I know they have bullet molds there. Would I be able to make it? If I had a YouTube video and I had the right kind of gunpowder and if everything, but like I think they did make bullets and probably shotgun shells. I don't know. They like to know how to do those things. I wasn't invited over to learn. I don't know why not. Because isn't it a good thing to teach everybody how to make munitions in case you're invaded by people who consider you the enemy and want to, enslave you, or kill you, or rape and murder you, or turn you into adrenochrome blood food for Johnny Depp and Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas? I don't know, because... Anyway, so it seems like Carl Kolchak, is pretty, I don't know, on board the cruise ship, unrealistic, but at your house, I don't know. Anyways, if you're going to be Wolverines versus vampires, then I don't know what kills a vampire. Does a bullet kill a vampire or not? But the Dungeons and Dragons people that play these kind of games are the experts to ask what are the strengths and weaknesses of various classes of opponent, whether human or monster or cyborg or something else, Terminators or something. How about vampires versus werewolves? They did that. It's on a Netflix TV show. It seems like both kinds of werewolves and vampires can be killed by the other species. So it's not a sure thing that one will kill the other. So it's Mortal Kombat. How about velociraptors from Jurassic Park versus vampires that were human before they got bit? Can a velociraptor reptile with telepathy and group hunting techniques take down the vampire Lestat? I wouldn't think so. Could the vampire Lestat from the Anne Rice novels, Could he walk through the Christian lake of fire made by the Christian God? Would the vampire not be afraid because, the Christian cross doesn't work on them? Would the vampire say, yeah, I have no problem walking through a lake of fire made by the so-called Christian God? But vampires were shown in Anne Rice's books to be susceptible to sunlight. And sunlight would destroy. Vampires that weren't really, really old vampires that were very long in the blood from original blood. Diluted blood vampires that were all diluted down the bloodlines and didn't have that much whatever it was that made those vampires. Well, when Marius, a senior vampire, an old vampire, took the mother and father of ancient vampires out into the sunshine and left them out in the sunshine, then all the younglings who were weak in the blood burst into flame wherever they were. They couldn't. I mean, the old ones in the desert, I don't know, they might have got a little bit of a sunburn on them. They were supposed to have been like alabaster colored and like statues, and eventually they got a little bit of like brown tan, and maybe Marius got a nice golden tan. And the less old you were and the less strong blood you had, then the young ones that were only 10 years old or maybe 200 years were susceptible to not being strong enough in the blood, in the vampire blood, to withstand the mother and father of the whole bloodline being out in the sunshine for an extended number of days. And Marius did it on purpose because there was too many vampires and they were amoral and uncontrollable, and it just got out of hand. Probably, it just there's not enough humans to feed on, and it was becoming a catastrophe. So that's what he did, and he had to do a big cull of the vampire population, and that was the easiest way to do it. So at the Georgia Guidestones put up by the 1%, it's almost surreal when I'm saying that, because they say they want to reduce the world population from what they say is 8 billion down to 500 million. Well, it's just that maybe the 8 billion figure isn't a correct number. Maybe there are actually only 500 million people on the planet. And the CIA has been inflating numbers in order to try and build military tactics where things like Malaysia, it doesn't seem to produce any products whatsoever. It has a population of 300 million, and ditto with like Pakistan, where nothing you buy at Walmart it says made in Pakistan. And maybe India isn't 1 billion people, and maybe it isn't an advanced nation. Maybe it is still like 1850. Because there's various reports. Some reports say it's as modern as Toronto, Canada, in the cities of India, and other reports seem to say that India is super backwards still, a third world country, like what they used to tell us in the 1970s, that, they had a village well and they had to go and, through dirt streets, and I don't know, I've never been to India. What's the truth? I don't know. So why do we believe that 8 billion was the actual number of the world population when it's just, it's just a book learning that's put up by the CIA? CIA.gov, and what makes you say that that's an accurate number? An ordinary person, I can't see how you would ever be able to estimate. And then, when it gets metaphysical, a hypnotic regressionist, Dolores Cannon, tells us that many people in our environment are what they call backdrop people. What's exactly backdrop people? Well, it's not what you think. Dolores Cannon kind of lets you know that they're really not human. Maybe somebody else might call them holographic inserts. Like Tupac Shakur, after he was declared dead, and then they were using like a holographic version of him for future concerts. something. Have you watched that series Sense8? Sense, then the number 8 on Netflix? I don't know, I didn't, but I did watch the trailer of it and I read a little bit about it, and it just seems like people being able to experience, I don't know. It's just that quite often I feel like, in addition to the demonic spirits that attack me all the time, other spirits come through. And when I'm looking on the monitor here on my screen, sometimes I see this face change. And previously I was given to say, well, somebody's got this, a secret app. It's the CIA that's got a secret app that on the fly, because everybody's seen these apps that you can use for free that change your face and, put glasses on or make you look like a cat person or something. So they could have something, because I'm just using this Android Samsung phone, when they could have some, prank me where they go and they blend my face that's seen on here, because they've got tracking software. They know that my face is here. The software knows that. So they could just on the fly be changing what I see on the screen here when I'm recording. And well, or it's like that movie Waking Life, because that happened, exact same thing happened in the movie Waking Life, which was the Richard Linklater film. Ethan Hawke is probably the biggest name that was known in that movie. But it was all supposed to be live action humans that were filmed, and then it was sent to, I don't know, Korea or someplace, North Korea or someplace, and then each frame was hand painted to give it a animated effect. Anyways, that's one you could look at, because I bought the DVD because Trevor Miller used to come over and we'd have a few bottles of wine and smokes and things, and we would watch some of that movie. And quite often we didn't watch the whole. No, it's too much to take in, because it's really deep. Like a few segments, 2 or 3 segments, sometimes is like, because it's like that movie changes lives. Well, if you watched that movie and you weren't drinking red wine and, having smokes, would it change you? Yes. Because it changes your frames of reference. It's like that wonderful movie by Tobey Maguire, where in the beginning of the film, it's like The Wizard of Oz. It's all in black and white. And a lot of people, I don't know, they start transitioning into becoming people who are color. And buildings go from being black and white to color. And some people vehemently opposed to color, and they like things always to stay in black and white, the old-fashioned way. And other people are like, well, fuck you, we got color, we never had it before, we want color TV. We're sick of black and white. I don't know. Is black and white TV good? Yes. Yes, it is. Because it makes TV that you're watching look different than the usual thing. I don't know, maybe there's a thing on here. On the fly I was going to see if there's like something on my phone that I could change it to black and white, but it doesn't have that on this camera. Well, it should. I should be able to just go like click right here and get it to go and give me like different choices, but when I click on the screen it doesn't give me choices. So I mean, this is a Samsung Android phone well, it's not brand new, but it's, why doesn't it have that? Or why aren't there updates that fix these things? Because I don't know, most of the apps are garbage that are available. I don't know. Anyway, so it's just the odd things about when I look on here, and what's supposed to be my face looks different, and I think it's quite often apt. Because if we're in Keanu Reeves' Matrix, then he showed times when people's mouth would go. And people couldn't open their mouths because it could just. Could it happen? Well, Matrix glitches, yeah, I don't know. Bizarre things, yeah, I don't know. It's more likely that things are possible than impossible. Because impossible is if you just take an axe and after the first I am, then it says I am possible instead of Impossible. 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 It's the same word. Impossible means you can't do it, but if you just split it between the M and the P, because there's an imp at the beginning of impossible. IMP. You could go and split the word right there, and you'd have imp. And then you got Rumpelstiltskin, whose famous saying is "imp be imp." It's not quite said that way. No, it's imp be imp. That's how he would say it. And that means scorpions are always scorpion animals. Always, 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 always. So, if you live in Arizona, you're supposed to, if there's things on the floor like shoes or like last night's jeans, then you always shake them out before you put your feet into those things, because scorpions are known to go and crawl into those things in desert climates, according to popular folklore. And if you live in scorpion territory, then never trust a scorpion, because if you do put your foot into a shoe and the scorpion's in there, it's going to give you an absolutely sickening, horrible sting. It's going to make you physically sick, according to toxicology that we were told through commonly, I don't know, just things we seem to hear about. I mean, where I live in Thunder Bay, no, it's not scorpion territory. Unless it was an exotic pet. Mitch McGuire of Vancouver likes exotic insect pets. I don't know. Some people like to keep big snakes in their apartments and playpens. I don't know. And if you live in a Vancouver condo or apartment, it's like your neighbor might have these things that might get into a vent. And there was a story somewhere in Canada where it was a reptile pet shop downstairs, and upstairs was apartments, and somehow a snake got upstairs and killed a child. Through vents and things, toilets, or maybe they just use that as a cover story because they want to demonstrate in a satanic ceremony the death of a child by a snake. I think that's the most likely thing that actually happened. Murder by snake. Child murder by snake. Canadians will remember that story. But it didn't turn out that way in the news. It was just, well, too bad. That was a horrible thing. So clearly our investigative services, called the, RCMP, for example, are not doing the job that, Clarice Starling was doing in Silence of the Lambs. An authentic person who was up against a bunch of fucking asshole, toxic masculinity male cops, and the absolutely insane toxic masculine Hannibal Lecter. But if you're expecting that there are those heroic people, I don't think they exist. I don't think so. Because when I say, is anybody out there willing to play Hector, as demonstrated in the Longmire TV show, the character played by Lou Diamond Phillips, who wasn't born Hector, but the first Hector was reported, I think, somebody got him. He's dead. And something in Lou Diamond Phillips' character in that TV show said, well, there's a crying need among, abused women who have got children, and they've got no male protector in the family, and there's other men who are abusing them. And the local police force in Longmire, the indigenous police were corrupt and in on a lot of the crime. And then they had a big money casino that had a lot of money pouring in, so they could, hire a lot of thugs. And that's the way it is on planet Earth, isn't it? The 1% and have private armies, or what? Soldier of fortune? Is it really true? Are there people? I don't know. Anyways, we'll leave that with you. Why? Because I don't know how else to answer it, because I can't interview a whole pile of various people. doing formal market research like what I learned to say that we do in corporations, because when I was a McMaster doing my master's in business, specializing in marketing, they said, well, market research. Dr. Sheldon Deal. But when I work for companies in real life, they don't do market research. So all of this good science doesn't get done by regular corporations. They just don't do it. That's just my experience, empirical experience versus what they teach you in business school. Okay, so what else do you want to talk about? Let's see. So we were wondering, okay, so if you had velociraptors versus vampires, and vampires thought that they could live in the lake of fire of the Christian God because there might be video games. Like I played Dungeon Keeper decades and decades ago, and Dungeon Keeper, the vampires like to go into a dungeon, and their training was they would whip one another, and that was their erotic whipping. And that's what the Dungeon Keeper said, that vampires like to be, well, they like to go together in a group and whip one another, and that's their training in Dungeon Keeper by Bungie. I don't know, it's just like things you learn. If you were a Dungeons and Dragons person, then you would file those facts away for, if you ever came across a dungeon and you heard the whack of you would go, that's vampires in training, and you would judge accordingly. And the Wolverine teams of non-vampire people would have to try and figure out what exactly you're going to do with preternatural creatures that can travel as fast as the speed of light or something. But if they're hungry for you, then what are you going to do? Well, I don't know. If you're a reptilian alien from planet Draconis, well, Pindar the Horrible said that it has superpowers. And Corey Good and other people say the superpowers are nanites. They're nanomolecules that are part and parcel of a reptilian cybernetic upgrade in all body systems, including their intelligence. Computer-assisted intelligence. So you take an alligator and you give it, super intelligence, and I don't know, alligator is really not the right thing, because, the velociraptors were able to walk around bipedally like a human. I don't know. And them versus vampire, I don't know. Maybe they're smart enough to figure it out, because the reptilians are supposed to be an older species than mammalian human people. Yeah, they're supposed to be a predecessor race to us on planet Earth. So they should be way more advanced than us, but maybe they only have, like, instead of having 5 fingers, maybe they've just got 3, something like that, or Mr. Spock would go like that. Okay. So peace, long live, and prosper. Well, if you're reptile, I don't know, because do reptiles only have 3 claws? Well, dogs sometimes have that claw that's halfway up their lower limb, whatever you call that thing, dew claw. I don't know, just the way that, I don't know. But maybe that's what that is because that Mr. Spock salute is like 1 finger here, 1 there. So you could simulate a 3-fingered creature if they were the ancient builder race and they didn't have 5 fingers. They only had 2 and a thumb, or maybe they didn't have an opposable thumb like the Lestat that we watched on TV, A Land of the Lost, when I was young on television. Okay, other creatures from Pixar. Okay, so Buzz Lightyear and these other guys, I don't know. Are they able to, wear their strengths? I don't know these characters well enough to tell you. How they all would deal with, I don't know. What if we went to 5D Earth, and instead of us all talking about all of these creatures having cage matches to the death, what if we talked about all these creatures with love and said in 5D Earth, we're all going to go snowboarding. All of us are going to go snowboarding. Even Dora somehow was going to get help so she can come snowboarding outside of the ocean and up onto, I don't know. Because that's what 5D Earth is about. Letting go of all of the killing and maiming and harming others and hurting others. And people enjoying hurting others. 5D Earth is all 540 on the scale of human consciousness and higher. Unconditional love, peace, joy, bliss, Sat Chit Ananda. Jesus of Nazareth, all the different Buddhas. And just for fun, we're going to throw in all your favorite pets. All the dear departed pets. We're going to be the ones that are going to throw them all into 5D heaven for you. So all your favorite pets that you know, you thought you were never going to see again. And that's who the Galactic Federation of Light is. Led by the dearly departed pets from planet Earth, who have gained in 5D Earth, they're already there, and they've gained the ability to do a Will Be Daniels, who was that old Disney movie, the Shaggy Dog, and later on the Shaggy DA, a person, a human person who can shapeshift into a dog. So, and that's really who they are, because they really do love us, and we love them. And that's what they want to do for us. So, if you hear people talk about the Galactic Federation of Light, and many different people on YouTube are talking about GFL, Galactic Federation of Light, you could go to, for example, Sam the Illusionist. Who else talks about it? Michael Love and the Pleiadians. I bet you they'll talk about the Galactic Federation of Light. I don't know. We go to search for that GFL, and you might see strange sigils of them GFL. Like here in Thunder Bay, we have a new garbage company, and they're called GFL, which is the same initials as Galactic Federation of Light, and they're called Green for Life. So, 2 thumbs up for using GFL and raising awareness too. And that color of those bins, which is kind of like this color of this shirt here, a bit more yellow than those bins. Anyways, if you see them, that is also the color for Galactic Federation of Light. Is it like this color over here? More yellow than that. More yellow in the green. Anyways, if you do have that Green for Life around, they're bins that are light green with kind of yellow in it, like lemon lime color, I would say. Yeah. That's them. And what are they doing? Well, they're wanting us to rise in consciousness. In order to get to 5D Earth, we've got to get to at least 540. And right now, the collective here in Thunder Bay, my muscle tests are often hijacked. So don't take mine for granted, but we're going to see we have permission. Yes, Thunder Bay, currently we have permission. The collective of all the people here in Thunder Bay calibrates over 200, over 300, no, 201, 202, 203, 203. I don't know. It's not 540, folks. So, things that have got to go. Meat eating, you got to stop eating meat and buying meat. And don't buy dog food that's based in meat. Or cat food. Don't buy any of that. No meat. Because really, if your pets are coming as the Galactic Federation of Light, to bring you into heaven, and you're like Chewbacca, and you're still killing animals and then having barbecued meat, well, they are your animals, and you're saying, well, we're going to still barbecue up pigs. And some people's, dear departed family pets were those little Vietnamese pork-bellied pigs. So those mini ones. So you have to go out to change, folks, if you want to get to a real heaven, where you get to see your dear departed again. It's up to you to change. Because they're going to be just like in the last Star Wars movie, where Hollywood said, that's enough. No more meat eating. And again, They roasted famous hero Chewbacca, who was caught with his pants down, killing animals and barbecuing them and eating them as food. So, no more. The other one is booze. No more drinking booze. Because we all know people on booze become irrational, horrible drunks, vicious and violent, and the next day they forget they did it all. So no more booze. But if you want, you can smoke your pot and you can go back to smoking your cigarettes. Because I think we're misled about all these cancer links and everything. Because that's all demonic attack. It is. Anyways, or the demons just want to say that sometimes, I don't know. Demons are demons. And they might tell you half-truths and some full truths some of the time, but you can't trust demons. And the law is the law, universal law is you got to be at 540. So if you're not at 540, you're considered a demonic. And that's a terrorist. And the Galactic Federation of Light, even though they loved you as Earth animals, they're not that anymore. You might as well consider them people who refused to drink booze and refused to eat meat. Apparently they were put to the test. So, if you want to meet these folks, the Galactic Federation of Light, you got to change. And don't forget, David R. Hawkins of Consciousness Research told you that this place is a purgatory in a Roman Catholic sense. That is, this place is a place where you come to change, to make yourself fit for what they call the higher dimension, the celestial realms, the beautiful places with the beautiful people. Angels are supposed to be incredibly beautiful creatures, stunningly beautiful. Just probably make you cry when you see how beautiful they are. They're so full of love and light. So even if you're going to make yourself equivalent to an angel, you got to rise to 600 on the scale of human consciousness. And don't stop there, because the most famous angel of all, who is a human, is Jesus Christ. Because he calibrates at 1,000, so way above 600, where you first get your wings. And then beyond that, then, Homo Spiritus, Homo Luminous is the next thing they call you when you get up above 1,000 on the scale of human consciousness. That's it. Thank you very much. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down, or put a comment there, or just give me a thumbs up and then take it off, or something, just to indicate somehow that you actually watched the video. Because otherwise, there's no class participation marks that I can give you.